one day, I was at dinner with my brother. It was his birthday, and he shares his birthday with his best friend, and we're all sitting around the dinner table, and my mom asks a question to just, incite conversation. And she asks, if you could do anything and you knew with 100% knowing that you would be successful with whatever it was that you would do, what would you do? Light dinner conversation. And we all start going around and sharing different ideas that we had. And my response was to add just a little bit more understanding into the world, because I think that understanding is the path to love. And we all need more of that in our lives, right? Like, especially now. And so I'm given this opportunity today to share a little bit of my own understanding through a pretty personal story. I found myself actually 4 years ago to the day. I'm getting emotional, so bear with me. Not to the day, but 4 years ago to the week. I found myself standing on a New York City avenue, staring at oncoming traffic, and I was standing still. And I scared a lot of my friends and my family and myself. And after that, I decided to take a semester off of school and figure out what brought me to that night. And the understanding that I came from that is what I want to share with you today. And I don't have that long, so I'll just tell you the basics of this theory and understanding, and then I'll tell you my story in the terms of that theory. And then I'll tell you it again, and then and then I'll tell you what I want you to do with it, right? Okay. So this theory, it's called my ball dust theory. I wish I had a better way to describe it, but that's what you're going to get today. It's my ball dust theory. And if we imagine every human as a sphere, close your eyes and really use your imagination. Every human is a sphere. This human spirit is a sphere, and at the center of that sphere is the brightest, most intense light. Now, this is the true, your capital S self. This is your true self. This is not ego. This is not anything. This is your spirit, the God within all of us, the light within all of us. That is the core. Then outside of that, zoom out a little bit further, there's this swirl of dust. Think stardust, with all the types of colors and textures and differences. So if this sphere is equivalent to the human spirit and the human, then the dust would be equivalent to human experience. So you're born this pure little ball of light, and then as you start experiencing the world, that dust starts to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and swirl around you, and your light shines through that dust, and then whatever is projected outside of that is how people see you, through the experience of the human experience of having the body you have, whether it's female or male, the human experience of having the skin color you have, whether it's black, white, brown. That's all human experience. Okay. So as you have new experiences, they land on the surface of your sphere, and they start interacting with the experiences that you've had in your past. That's what perspective is. So in that reaction, you realize that, as a black woman sitting down or going to the University of Virginia, I had a different experience than a white male that might have went to the University of Virginia in talking about Thomas Jefferson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because I've had a different experience than they have, right? Okay. So that dust reacts within your sphere, but then that whole sphere is made of dust, right? So it also reacts with the spheres around you. That's what friendship is. That's what brings us closer. That's what understanding is. We can understand another person because we have shared experience. If we have a bit of the same experience, we're like, oh, I can put myself in their shoes. Okay, cool. I understand that. I agree with that. And those spheres orbit around each other and stuff like that, right? Okay. That's the basics. Here's my story. I was that light that came out, that baby. And as I started experiencing the life, there was a moment which I experienced a lot of pain. Always. There's a young person. In almost all of our lives, we can point back to a point in our lives that we've experienced trauma or pain. For me, my parents got divorced, and my dad moved away, and I was in pain. And because of that experience came to my core, which was, it was pretty dark, low-frequency dust. And it reacted with the other experiences that I've had that praised my enthusiasm and my excitement about life and my bubbly nature, and that was praised, but my pain was never acknowledged. And so I thought I had to hide it, so I hid it. And I hid it by using the best parts of myself. I have a really good ability to connect with people. I'm an empath, so I can sit next to someone on a train and know they're having a bad day. And so what I did is I surrounded myself around people, because I would get their dust, it'd land on my sphere, and then I'd turn to a next person and I'd share that dust with the next person, but I never actually got deep enough to go into my core. And so I was just exchanging other people's dust, and luckily I surrounded myself with people I loved and respected, so I was still acting in ways that I was proud of. So it worked. Anytime my pain would come up in any way, I'd just put myself around other people and I'd be good. But I was accumulating all of these other people's dust. So fast forward, I'm in my 3rd year at University of Virginia, and I'm deciding what to do. And that dust is getting thicker, and it's pretty low frequency because it's not connected to my core. And I have 2 options with what to do with my summer. I was a drama major, I'm an actor, and so I got accepted to study with the Stella Adler Studio in their Chekhov and Shakespeare program. Or I can work as a marketing intern at American Express. And I knew what my core wanted, but the majority of the dust that was in my sphere was other people's dust. So I made my decision off of what other people would have chosen. So I'm an intern at American Express, and every experience I have is either dull or anxiety producing. And I'm like, I don't see the point. I really don't see the point. I don't know why I have to get up every day and put on this, what felt like a costume to go. No, I didn't want to do that. But I did, because I wanted to make all the onlookers, all the people that I had taken on their dust, I wanted to make them proud. So that whole summer was just, every experience I had would come into my sphere and would react with the experience, and it immediately turned dark. It never got a chance to see my core, because my core wasn't shining through at that point. And so I did what I always do. I put myself around a bunch of people. And so I was having more and more anxiety attacks. And I had just given my final presentation at American Express, and I did pretty well, I think. And I had a really bad anxiety attack afterwards. I was like, what am I anxious about? Like, I just did the big thing for if I'm going to get this job, or a job I don't really want, but whatever. But what's this anxiousness about? But that was negative, and it was something that we don't talk about. So it went back into the darkness. I didn't talk about it. I surrounded myself around people. And I'm out, I'm having a good time, and I'm running and chasing and looking for external validation, because I didn't have it within myself at the time. And when I didn't get that, honestly, I was not my best self that day. And my best friend, she called me out. She said, Amanda, you're acting like a pretty shitty person right now. And that disappointment of someone I love so much was like the tipping point. And so I felt like it caught up to me finally. And so I physically and literally ran. I ran from the situation. So I ran out into New York City Avenue, And I paused because I was so tired of running. I was tired of running from my pain. And I just paused, and in that pause, as I saw an exit, I was like, oh, I don't have to feel, great, I'll stay right here. And my friends came and they pulled me off like just in time to the other side of the street, and they were like, what's wrong with you? And any interaction with me would immediately become my demon. So I literally fought them off like they were my demons. And all they were receiving was this negative, shitty dust that I was spewing all over them. And I was like, why'd you take me away from that? I finally had my peace. Let me go back. I didn't know how to get back there, but I had to figure it out. They called my mom and my brother Taylor, and I couldn't face it. And then they called one friend, Stardust, aligned, and he was able to have a conversation with me where I could hear. He navigated that dust to get back to my core, who I'd forgotten for a while at that point. And it was the 9-year-old girl that was in the middle of her sphere looking around at this storm and terrified. And I finally broke down. I said, I'm miserable. I don't know how to do, like, what's the point of this? I don't know why I'm doing this. Because all that comes into me is negative and it's dark and it's gross, right? So I took the semester off, and I said, okay, we're going to do some illumination in this darkness. I started to shine a light around personally and by myself, really. Started doing the artist's way, if you know it. If you're an artist, read that book. I started doing that, and I saw the darkness. I saw pieces of myself I was not proud of. But here's the understanding that I wanted to share with all of you today. In order to bring that darkness to the light, we have to literally bring it to the light. We literally have to tell our stories, and we have to tell the truth. We have to tell the truth about who we are. But truth, without that connection to core, without that connection to light and love, is just that nasty darkness. But when it shines through that light, it's a piece of human experience that can allow us to connect with the next person. So, in telling my truth now, which I don't think I've told to many people, and now I'm telling to a whole bunch of people, I'm hoping that it illuminates my darkness to be able to connect with the next person, right? That's what we need. So, 3 things I want you to do with this theory of understanding. 1, tell the truth, but tell the truth with compassion. When you look at yourself and you said, yeah, I bit my friend, literally, that was not a kind thing to do. No. But at that point, she was a demon to me, so I was doing what I needed to do, what I thought I needed to do. There's compassion around that. I know that's a past self that has brought me to a place where I can stand here and tell you this story with confidence, knowing that it brought me to the right place, knowing that there's a knowing and a trust in the universe once you start showing your light, once you start connecting with others, right? So tell the truth, tell it with compassion, and lastly, give yourself the space to understand yourself. Do it by yourself first. Look at yourself. Say, these are the things I'm scared of. Be honest with your emotional truths, the difficult things. It might not be easy, but it's the only thing that's going to allow us to connect with one another. That connection is what we're missing. That connection of seeing someone whose experiences are different, but whose dust is made of the same thing. It's dust. We're so quick to be like, that's different than mine, I don't want it. But every single person has that core. Every single core is valuable. And any time that darkness comes in, that core can withstand whatever storm life throws at you. Trust in that. Believe in that and follow that. Thank you for listening.